All right, today's date is December the 7th.
No, 6th.
December the 6th, and the time is 2:17 p.m. We're at the post headquarters located at 5000 Austell Powder Springs Road. Present speaking is Investigator Steve Goodyear from the Georgia Post Council Investigative Division. This will be an interview with Alfonso Harris, and if I could get everybody to tell me your name and your position.
Alfonso Forrest.
Forrest. Yeah. I said Harris. That's good.
I'm employed for Amazon now.
Okay. And you're represented by?
Kevin Almeroth, Almeroth.
Falls Marching Post.
Okay. As you know, you were employed in Richmond County for several years. You left. You went to Snellville.
Yes, sir.
Snellville reported to Post, as they should, that on August the 10th of this year, you were terminated.
Yes, sir.
Anytime you are terminated from a law enforcement agency, it automatically triggers a post-file review,
Right.
post-investigation. So it got assigned to me. My job is to gather as much of the information as possible, present the facts to the post council. They will review those facts and they'll make a determination as to whether or not they're going to impose any sanctions on your certification, up to and including revoking your certification. Council's not interested in whether you were properly or improperly hired, fired, terminated, wrongful termination. That's something you can take up, and there's numerous avenues, which I'm sure he's told you.
Yes.
If you're upset about being terminated, there's other places and other platforms. Right. This one is related solely to your law enforcement certification or certifications. I believe you have several, right?
Yes, sir.
You have a jailer certification, juvenile correction officer, and a peace officer.
Yes, sir.
Correct? So that's why we're here.
Okay.
I've gathered, as you can see, got quite a bit of information, gathered as much as I can from your former agency, Snellville, their IA file. We're here now to talk to you and get your side of the story. It's well, let's just start with you. You tell me why you were terminated from Snellville.
Well, a false article came out in June about me being involved in a homicide back in the Richmond. I notified Lieutenant, article let him know that, notified the IA captain Spear at the time. That next day, I got an email from IA and said I was up on the investigation. While my name came up in this, I began to ask me several questions. They did they told me I had orders and they fired me.
They tell you why?
Yeah, they said that I was unethical doing it.
What does that mean?
They said that I lied about those were my old agency, that I was molesting my child, that I still have custody of to this day. Investigation. I was to Snellville because when I transferred that, it was where the lie came in at. Those how I'm lying. Sheriff's office in Richmond County.
I may have missed something while I was taking my notes here. You said that you did not tell them about a 2018 investigation involving your daughter.
Yeah.
You thought of child abuse?
Yeah.
Was that the subject of the...
I believe it was child molestation or something like that.
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah.
You didn't tell them that.
I didn't disclose it in my application. I didn't.
But you just said you just disclosed it.
No. What I'm saying is, Richmond County disclosed I was clear from it. Mm-hmm. I didn't disclose it in Snellville at the time because I thought it was closed. And they asked me about it during the investigation. I told them that I thought it would be transferred when I called and get my IA file. Told me that I was clear from it.
And they would. I mean, obviously Snellville can have access to your IA file with Richmond County, and if you knew they were going to find it anyway, why didn't you tell them about it in your application?
Well, that's why I didn't. Find out everything else, and they said they couldn't. I should have disclosed that to them. That's why I didn't tell them. It wasn't that I was trying to hide it. I mean, if I'm clear from why I'm hiding it, that makes sense.
Well, I don't think it's a matter of whether or not you were trying to hide it. They didn't specify in the reports to me that you were terminated for trying to hide it. They said you were terminated for failing to disclose.
Yeah.
So that's what we're looking at. It's just a failure to disclose.
Yeah,
so
it wasn't no reason why I didn't. It was just like I said, when I transferred from to Snellville, I just didn't put it. And I thought maybe.
Okay, well, then I'm gonna make this real simple. Did you disclose? Did you fail to disclose a 2018 investigation during your hiring process?
I did.
That's what the allegation is.
Right.
Correct?
Correct.
So then that allegation is correct? Failed to disclose a 2018 investigation? Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I got a lot of stuff here to talk about. You drove all the way here. I guess we're going to talk about all of those. Because even though that's not the allegation from Snellville, we've clarified that. In these investigations, other issues have come up which have now something the council is going to want to know the facts and the details of.
So, Investigator Goodyear, before we move on, and you can, the question that was asked in the employment application was significant in your background closed. And
This one? This one what you're referring to?
Yeah, I think so. It's the only one I've got. And I think 2 interview questionnaires included in there. There seemed graphical error on one, and they were questionnaire. That was a question that was asked, but yours was polygraph examination. Polygraph examiner was the same. Polygraph examiner is the one. The question that was just asked is, did you fail to? Officer Forrest did not disclose it. He didn't think fun. He'd been fully cleared package, which it was, and there wasn't any intent on his part to try to hide something. So I don't think.
Okay.
So.
Clarify one other point here.
Sure.
We are not the decision makers. We're the fact gatherers. That will be relayed to the council, and they can. They're the decision makers. We provide them with the facts.
Right.
That's going to be an interpretation issue because the council's made up not only of law enforcement, but a vast majority of them are law enforcement, down to what they consider common sense. What should or should not have been known, and you being a previously employed for quite some time law enforcement officer versus a brand new law enforcement officer, they'll take that in consideration as to whether they think you should have considered that something significant or not. A lot of this is going to be up to an interpretation on that issue. On the other issues, obviously a big flag that came out to us post is that you were considered to be a person of interest in a homicide investigation. I've done this is who we're referring to.
Yeah.
This is Felicia Harris. I've read your, I don't know if you included that in your statement. I can't remember. I know there was a lot to do with your daughter in there. I put this to bed as far as we're concerned. I've done a lot of research and interviews with Richmond County about this. As far as I'm satisfied, they've stated you're not a person of interest, never were a person of interest at this time. Of course, anything can come up, a month from now, so they're not going to definitively say absolutely not.
And that's correct. And not to cut you off. Anytime they call me, I was cooperative. If they needed anything from me, I live in Augusta now, man. I moved up here, and I moved back home, and I live 2 blocks away from the sheriff's office. They called me 3 or 4 times when this came out. I complied with everything. Anything that they questions, anything. And they never said I was a suspect or a person of interest in this case.
And this happened in 2020, from my understanding,
yeah, it
correct?
happened in 2020, yeah.
When was the first interaction you had with them about this?
July 29th.
July 29th?
Yeah, when the article came out, they called me, the investigator called me a couple days later.
This year.
This year, yeah.
So you weren't aware that you were a person of interest in April of 2020 when you started the hiring process with Snellville?
Correct.
And you had never been told by anybody that you were a person of interest?
Nobody.
So failure to disclose or discuss this, you didn't know about it?
I didn't know about it.
Okay. So then, as I said, I've discussed this with Richmond County. Our next concern was whether or not you are a person of interest, and they've satisfied me that you're not. So we're not going to dive into this.
Okay.
Do you have any idea why you would have been named a person of interest?
People jealous, man.
Who would be jealous of you to
My child mother. She's the one that told them that I sexually assaulted my daughter. I've been had custody. My daughter's 8 years old. She'll be 9 in March. I've been had custody of my daughter since she was 3 years old. And she just, I promise you, matter of fact, when the FBI and GBI did all the investigation with my daughter, my daughter even told them my dad didn't take these pictures of me because it was pictures of my daughter nude.
we haven't gotten into that one yet.
Yeah,
I'm just talking about the homicide.
I understand. Yeah, but just jealous, man.
So you think your baby's mama? Were y'all married? I don't want to use the wrong term.
No.
Y'all weren't married. And this is Candace Hall we're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you think she's the one who?
I'm pretty sure she is.
Okay. Either way, the only thing that we could find that led you to be a person of interest was that news article.
Yeah.
And they didn't name their source. They didn't actually name you. You named yourself.
But everybody. I mean, if you where I'm from, I'm very popular, man. If you Google my name right now, you'll see all the articles that I did in my community when I was a cop, man. I did so much in that community. Everybody knows. Because if you read the first article, it said went to a mental health facility. Everybody knew who they was talking about because my family was at the time, my brother let it be known on social media. Like, so everybody knew who they was talking about. You know what I'm saying? Like, ain't nobody doing nothing in that community as far as law enforcement wise. Now since I've been gone, so everybody knew who they was talking about. So
instead of social influence, were you a social influencer?
yeah, I was. Yeah,
So they were referring to you in that, and then when they mentioned the issue that you had gone to a mental health facility, that was you too?
yeah, that was me.
What was that in reference to?
Just depression, man. You know, I lost my uncle in 2009. Brandon Forrest, he was a professional boxer in Atlanta. He got shot 8 times in the back and robbed. Dealing with that depression, man. Law enforcement wise, man. Just and the AP lady at the time, I don't know if she's still there. Military, they go to, you know. Yeah.
And you were continued to be employed with Richmond County while you were there?
Yep.
When did you get back from
I
there?
went there for 21 days. Came back. I went there in February.
21? 21?
Yeah.
Okay.
You said Michigan wasn't right.
I'm sorry, Maryland.
Okay.
Yeah, Harbor of Grace is what it's called.
So your agency cleared you to put you back on duty,
Yep.
fitting for duty and all that, and when you got back?
Yep.
Because I know you still remained employed there.
Yeah, I did.
What made you leave Richmond County?
Just a better opportunity. Man, this was already in the plan anyway, way before I even went to that facility. Like, I was already seeking out employment.
What kind of opportunity? What do you mean? Did Snellville pay more than Richmond County?
They did at the, when I was there. Just acting in one place for 7 years, I grew that department.
If I recall, I had read somewhere in your application that the reason you told Snellville you moved up here was because you were following a girlfriend.
Yeah, I was at the time when we had broke up.
But you just told me a different answer as to why you left Richmond.
Well, I'm just saying, like, that was, they even asked me that during my interview on my IA investigation. But we actually broke up during the time I was getting invested. I mean, when I was coming to Snellville.
But did you tell Snellville that you came
I
up
did.
there? Why would you tell them that if y'all already broke up?
No, we broke up.
All right, so let's go back. You started talking about this investigation involving your daughter that occurred in 2018. Tell me about that.
All from my supervisor. I get there, and he said, "Show me some pictures of my daughter." I don't, and be honest with you, man, that was the first time I ever talked to him. I mean, like, the first and last time I ever talked to the investigator about that. That was it. And they told me that my child needed to go to these different investigators or whatever, do these screenings or whatever. I couldn't take at the time. Baxter was involved. I was taking my mom's house, my dad's house. But who would take these pictures? I was like, who else will have access to my child? Mother. Nobody else should have access to my child like that. The willing to let her terrorist officers, news outlets, and I'm in Augusta do this stuff, man, to my child. I didn't just explain it to the investigators. I don't know if they investigated her to this.
What investigator are you referring to?
I don't know who the investigator. I can't even.
Gore?
Yeah, Gore. Terry
Okay.
Gore. Terry Gore. That's him.
Who's Amos?
That's the one.
On the homicide?
Yeah.
Okay. I've got it. I've got that file. Again, they were confident that you were not responsible for that. You were clear to that.
Right.
So any guilt or responsibility for that is not any concern of Posts or Richmond County, from what I understand. The concern with Snellville is you didn't disclose that either. You didn't discuss that issue or that investigation.
Talking about my child.
The one with your child. You were a suspect in that until they cleared you.
Well, I don't think they asked me that during the interview.
But again, if you want to go back to that general question, is there anything of significance?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
to be a suspect in an investigation like that is pretty significant to law enforcement.
Yeah. Well, I was definitely. This happened in 2018. I was still employed with the sheriff's office till this year, man. I mean, I ain't got nothing to hide, man. Like, I was clear from it. I don't know who my child mother even do some, excuse my language, shit like that, man, to me, man.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm a good person. Anybody that knows me will tell you, I ain't never had a violent bone in my body. You know, I grew up rough in the projects down in Augusta, rough, man.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I wanted to change my environment. That's why I continue to make myself grow every day, and I get up to make myself a better person, a better officer every day. Every day. And for somebody that can do this to me, man, and just ruin my whole life, I got to live with this every day. When I leave here with you guys, I'm still got to live with this. I lost everything. I slept in my car 2-3 weeks after I lost everything with Snellville. Everything. I got to start all my whole life all the way over. All the way over. Over a lie. And sit up and tell me that Snellville calling me a lie over something that was unfounded, whatever how they want to word it.
What was the lie you're referring to?
Well, they're saying I didn't disclose that information to them.
But you just said that you didn't disclose it.
I didn't. Know what I'm saying? I'm saying Snellville said that I didn't disclose that information to them. They said I lied about it.
No, they said you didn't disclose it.
Okay. Well, I thought that would.
I think for clarification, what I just heard, Officer Ford,
I think so. Yeah.
Actually, the termination is what triggered this investigation was the fact you were terminated. That automatically is going to trigger termination.
I understand that.
Now, the allegation of the homicide is what triggered Snellville's investigation. In their investigation, they find out about all these other things, which in their opinion, they felt they should have already known about. Should have been disclosed in the application process. You didn't disclose those things. They terminated you for failure to disclose. That the lie you're referring to?
I guess so.
Okay. And I thought we had come to a conclusion that that was not a lie, that you did not disclose that issue. So that's the grounds for the termination. Again, we can go into your explanation.
Since I piped up, what I was saying, and I may have thought that what Officer Forrest was a lie in 2018, false report that came out. I thought that's what you're referring to as lies that have triggered all of this.
Yeah, that's what I was referring to.
I misunderstood. I thought you were talking about Snellville said you lied to them.
Oh, no.
That they lied about that you failed to disclose.
No,
that's not what you were referring to?
No, I was referring to them.
Okay, my mistake then. I thought you were referring to Snellville lying. So did Snellville lie?
As far as them saying that I didn't disclose that, no. I mean,
And I can understand your frustration with your ex or your child's mother. Obviously has created some havoc in your life, and I hate that for you. But again, we're here about the termination from Snellville.
I understand.
Did Snellville wrongfully terminate you?
I feel like they did, but
Why?
on the application, also on my application,
They were going to do that anyway, whether you said yes or not.
I know that. But still, they will fire me because all they got them, they contacted them. So that's why I didn't put. I feel like they terminated because of that. That's what they terminated me for. That's what I feel like they did.
And obviously you're entitled to that opinion, but that's not what they put in their paperwork
I
to
know
us.
that. I know that. Of course, they want me to put it in there. But
That was the question that was just asked.
Sorry,
You asked him. If,
got me confused.
Oh.
What did I say, and what's your
No,
question?
my understanding is, I just don't want him to be caught up in too much back and forth here. The question that was asked, if I recall, is, do you think you were wrongfully terminated? Yes, in my opinion, I was.
Okay.
And you said, and then his opinion and his belief, right? Okay, I just want to be clear.
I'm not asking. Now, this is not going to decide. I don't know if
Yeah,
y'all got
right.
litigation about wrongful termination. That's why I clarified up front. When I hear about whether you were wrongfully terminated, I just kind of like to set the ground rules so I know where we're at.
Yeah.
If you've got issue with Snellville, by all means, pursue those issues with Snellville. We don't really have standing in that. But the question was, so that we're clear, in the allegation from Snellville, which triggered this post-investigation, was you were terminated for failing to disclose information about your past. Not the homicide.
Okay.
You weren't required. The case in 2018, the investigation where you were a suspect in a child abuse, child molestation, whatever it was, which you were cleared of, you didn't tell them that.
Right.
They were concerned with that. In that investigation that was triggered over the homicide, which is where they found out about the child abuse, they also forwarded to us the information about an arrest you had, which I asked you if you had court records. Did you have court records from that?
Oh,
no, I didn't.
I think that was the issue, and I don't know that when I talked with Alfonso, I didn't realize that.
I don't really know, but from what I heard,
We're going to need that. I need to know who that investigation was.
I couldn't tell you.
You don't know what agency it was that
Yeah, it
investigated
was
you?
Richmond County, but I was juvenile. I ain't talking to no officers that.
But because it has now come to light, by your own admission, here in this polygraph application, it's alleged that you, according to you, that you were accused of touching my cousin inappropriately. I was found not guilty. You checked yes to the fact you pled guilty or pled nolo to a felony crime. You said you've done that. And then there's this other thing here, whether you were arrested as subject of investigation. You said yes. Now that you've stated in a document that has now been forwarded to Post that you've got a felony arrest, whether it was juvenile or not, that still has got to be disclosed to Post.
Right.
Post can clear you of that issue, but that was never disclosed to them.
Yeah.
You're required to provide that information of any arrest during any of your applications.
Yeah, and I put it. It's on my.
Did you ever notify Post? Why not? Okay. Did you ever notify Post?
No.
That's a problem. The applications, I pulled every application, and in it asks if you've been arrested. In 2012, you got your first juvenile correction officer application with Post in 2012, and you answered no to that question. That's not accurate.
I'm sorry.
You question, have you ever been arrested? In 2012, you said no. That's not correct.
Yeah, I know we've been arrested.
Well, then how can you go to trial? How can you be found not guilty? How can you say here that you've pled guilty or nolo to a felony charge?
Well, because I was never locked up, so
It doesn't matter whether you were locked up or not. You're a juvenile. They don't lock up juveniles.
right.
They charge you. You've been charged with a crime. Were you charged with a crime as a juvenile?
Yeah, I guess. If I put it on, I guess so. I mean, yeah.
I'm not asking what you
Yeah.
put on here. I'm asking you just straight up. Were you charged as a crime?
Yeah.
With a crime? What crime were you charged with as a juvenile?
I don't know.
You don't know.
I ain't no officer come talk to me.
Somebody had to charge you, and they do it on a juvenile complaint form when you're a juvenile, but they charged you with a crime of inappropriately touching your cousin. That was the crime you were charged with.
Okay.
I'm asking. That was a question.
Like I said, I didn't talk to an officer, man, so I couldn't.
Okay.
As far as what I know, she lied.
Okay, well, I'm not getting to the end of this yet. At some point during your lifetime as a juvenile, an officer, your mother, your father, your grandmother, your sister, somebody told you, the police came over here
Yeah.
and they're talking to this, somebody told you, right? Who was that?
My mother.
Okay, so somebody told you the police are here asking questions about this, and at some point they told you you've been charged with inappropriately touching your cousin.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I'm asking.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay, what did they tell you what that they were charging you with?
No.
Well, okay, irregardless. Then at some point through that, there was either an investigation, y'all got an attorney, y'all went to court, you went and appeared before a juvenile corrections judge, or at some point this had to play out.
Yeah. It was, I guess, whatever, yeah. But, also, like, it was...
Well, you've made that clear, but there was other issues and other parts of this. You went before a judge,
yeah, it was, yeah, like a trial.
and they called witnesses. There was a trial.
It wasn't no trial.
Was no trial.
No.
What did you do?
She wasn't even there.
What'd you do?
That was it. I ain't got to... They asked me, the judge asked me, was I guilty or not guilty? No,
That was it.
Yeah.
So you appeared before a judge. So you appeared before a judge on a criminal charge. So whether you actually went to a jail behind bars, you were charged with a crime. That, as you know from being a veteran officer, is an arrest. A traffic ticket is an arrest as far as that goes. You were arrested, but yet you answered no in 2012 on your post application that you had never been arrested. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
You've never been arrested.
I mean, put it like that, yeah, no.
I'm not twisting around.
I understand, yeah.
You're a veteran cop.
Yeah, I understand.
Had you ever been arrested as a juvenile?
Yes,
Okay, but did you answer yes or no on your post application?
yes.
Yes what?
I put yes on the application.
No, you did not.
Oh, I put no.
You put no.
Yeah.
That was in 2012.
Yeah.
In 2014, you were asked the same question when you applied for your jailer certification. What did you answer on that question?
I don't know.
You answered no. Let me refresh your memory. In 2014, you applied for a peace officer certification. You were asked that question again. What did you answer on that one? Answered no. I'll refresh your memory there. 2019, you had to do a recertification application for your peace officer certification. You were asked that question again. Do you remember what you answered? You answered no.
No.
It's 5 times. You answered no.
Investigator Goodyear, what was the question?
Have you ever been arrested?
And so it could be a distinction there if he was never...
Again, if he were a brand new person walking into law enforcement for the first time, I might understand that confusion. He's a veteran police officer. He knows the difference. All these times he's asked, maybe in 2012 I could understand, but 2014, 2019, all those other times, he knows the difference in an arrest and not an arrest. To be asked, have you ever been arrested, knowing that you were charged as a juvenile, you know you've been arrested as a juvenile.
That's correct. I mean, if I pull you over and get you a ticket, I'd arrest you.
Correct.
Yeah. But,
All right, man, what?
yeah.
I'm just asking, because now...
It is. I wasn't arrested for that. And that's what I got up under this pressure.
If you disclosed that issue you thought it was important enough, you answered yes. You obviously understood the fact that you had been arrested. You obviously understood the fact you had been charged because you admitted yes in this Snellville application. Said yes, you entered a plea of guilty or plea of nolo contender. You said yes. Which one did you enter?
What the question was again?
Have you ever been convicted or pled guilty or pled nolo contender to a felony crime? You said yes.
Yeah.
Which one was it?
It was not guilty.
Yeah, that's not part of this question. The question is convicted, pled guilty, or pled nolo to a felony.
No.
Pled nolo. So as a juvenile, you pled nolo? Okay, so then that is considered a conviction. You weren't only arrested, you were convicted of a felony. Because of that, we are going to have that court document. You can either get it yourself, which is going to be the easiest way to get this done, or we will reach out to, you said Richmond County, was it juvenile court? I need to know, because it's not going to pop up on a criminal history because it was a juvenile offense.
Yeah,
Richmond County Juvenile Tribunal.
I guess, yeah.
Okay. We need to get a copy of that disposition to show whatever the disposition of that was.
Okay.
And each time you answered this question, you did one of these applications through post. At the end of all of that, you were given what's called an attestation page, where you have to attest to the accuracy, the truth of all of that, and they give you a little disclaimer that basically you're swearing and affirming the answers you've given in your application are true and correct, and in lieu of possible criminal charges. And they list the code section in that page. You attested to each one of these, so if you want to get, well, not even technical, I was going to say if you want to get technical about it, you have committed 4 or 5 felonies by falsely answering these post applications and then attesting to them as being accurate and truthful and correct, when in fact they're not. Which is a problem with post, which has got to be passed on to the council, and there will be additional information they will use in their consideration of the. And I'll be honest with you, this is a lot. It's confusing. We usually deal with one issue with an officer, and the council reviews one issue. They're going to ask questions about that homicide thing. I'll be able to tell them you are clear of that. You are not a person of interest. They'll ask questions about your child abuse allegation. I'll be able to answer those questions that you were cleared. I know nothing about this thing that happened to you as a juvenile other than you clicking yes here. I'm going to need that. They're going to need that. Yeah, they will not give you a favorable ruling without that. They've got to review the merits of any allegation against you to determine whether or not they consider you to have been at fault or responsible or negligent in that situation before they'll ever continue. Your law enforcement certifications will be in limbo, basically, until this is resolved. That's why I need this as quickly as possible from you. When this goes before the council, it will not be a hearing. You will not get to stand before them. You will not get to stand before them. I'm the only one that will be able to stand before them, and my job is to try to answer any question I think they may come up with, which is why I'm kind of picking some of these things apart, because I'm going to have to answer on your behalf for them to make their decision. That's just a probable cause committee. After this is all over, if you disagree with what happens with the council, you can file an appeal, and you'll get a hearing where you get to stand before somebody and you get to speak your mind. Until then, that's the only words you get to go. They'll read that. You're aware he submitted a statement, a written statement. That statement will go before the council. They'll read that. That's the only opportunity you have to tell them your side of the story in this regard. The rest of it's going to speak for itself. Like I said, these investigations, they speak for themselves. I'll be able to clear those up. I hope the juvenile investigation will do the same. But I'm going to have that, or this case cannot be resolved. It'll sit here, and you will be unable to get employment in law enforcement. This will be addressed by them. You know, like I said, there's 5 felony counts right there. I'm not here looking to arrest you. That's not my decision. That'll be the council's decision as to whether they want to pursue that matter or not. I can't speak for the council. I don't know that. I would assume a lot of this would have to do with your cooperation in this whole matter, whether you do provide the information in the juvenile case. You are helpful and get us the opportunity to clear this up and move forward. Because we've got about 1,100 cases, open cases right now. They don't want us to spend all of our time devoted to this one case. So the sooner you can get it to us would help us get this cleared up and get you to moving forward. Anyway, Investigator Sparks,
Yeah,
you got anything to clarify on all
Yeah,
this?
mine not necessarily a specific question, but do you want to stay in law enforcement?
I do.
Because some of the things I'm hearing, and I mean, I'm new to this, I'm just here to... It appears that you're not being... It appears, and that's what the whole point of these applications are, it appears that you're not being forthcoming. Do you see that or understand that?
I get what you're saying.
And then when he asked you about the juvenile case, initially you didn't remember it. You were like, I don't remember. And then you remembered a tribunal, and then you remembered being in court, and then you remember pleading guilty. What? Not guilty. So
No.
whatever you pled. Do you remember there's a disposition, and whatever that disposition was? Are you trying to hide something? That's my point, is it would appear that you are trying to hide something.
Yeah.
You're
And
trying,
when I did my last interview with Richmond County Sheriff, they even brought that up.
what? Who did?
Sheriff, chief, and
Did you list it in your application?
yeah, I did. Matter of fact, they asked me that.
Again, so you list it in Richmond County, you don't list it the 4 or 5 times that he's got there, and then you list it again in Snellville. I shrug, so I mean, you don't have to answer if you don't want. I'm just curious as to what.
Yeah, I got confused with the question.
So you state in your statement that you were in 2000, during the investigation, I ordered to take a polygraph, and result, they fired me because I did not tell them about an IA investigation that was in 2019 in Richmond County. So if you're saying it's 2019, you're talking about the homicide. I meant to say 2018.
Letter right here, right?
Yeah.
2018, that, about my child.
So, because you do go on and talk about it being your daughter's case,
Yeah,
but you
that's
said
it,
2019. So
Right.
there's only one case, is what I'm getting.
Yeah, 2018.
One child abuse investigation case, 2018, not 2019.
No.
Never come up again. You were not interviewed in reference to that case.
My initial, when I got called out to the substation, that was it, but I haven't talked to
2018 about the child abuse investigation, you were not interviewed, or were you interviewed?
Yeah, they interviewed me the first time when they talked to me.
That's not what you told him earlier.
I'm saying they called me down there. That's how I was.
Details matter. You are a law enforcement officer.
Correct.
Details in this situation
Did I not say
matter.
that? Did I not say they called me? They called.
You said, I don't remember his name, and nobody talked to me. That's what I would call you.
No, I couldn't remember the investigator name, which is Terry
Yeah.
Gore.
Yeah.
I said he called me. Matter of fact, he called my supervisor at the time, Sergeant Harding, and he said I need to go down to the sheriff's office. This at 5 o'clock in the morning. So on night shift, I remember he called me down because he showed me the pictures.
Great. That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay. So you were interviewed by. So you
Yeah, I
knew
told- yeah.
you were a suspect in an investigation in reference to child abuse.
He never said I was a suspect, but since I guess it was a criminal matter, I guess I was a suspect.
I was going to say you're a veteran law enforcement
No.
officer. You pretty much
Correct.
know when you're either in an interview or in an interrogation.
Right.
Okay. So were you interviewed?
Yes, I was.
Okay. Were you interrogated?
I wasn't interrogated.
Did he read you your rights?
No.
Okay. Then did your daughter stay in your home?
She's still with me.
Daughter
Yes.
stay in the home during the investigation?
Yes.
Did you stay in the home during the
Yes,
investigation?
I stayed at home. Matter of fact, when the days I go to work, she stayed with my mom.
During that investigation of child sexual abuse, your daughter was allowed to stay in the home with you
Yep.
with no restrictions.
None. And defects came to my house. GBI.
Okay.
And,
I'm not questioning you. I'm
Yeah.
questioning to make sure that you understand what I'm
Hey, I
asking.
understand what you're saying.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. My daughter's still with me.
I understand what the end result is. I'm asking you during the investigation of
Yes.
child abuse.
Yes.
Your daughter wasn't staying with your parents, and they were in charge of your daughter.
No.
You weren't told to stay away from your daughter while this investigation was in the
No,
midst.
not at all. It's the same procedure that we had before all this stuff came out. It was the same thing.
You said your mom took your daughter to be.
Mom had to take her to get
Nobody said, "Hey, man, stay away from while we're in the midst of this." So I do have one other question. You listed here that you said that the improper termination of my position was Snellville.
Yep. Because it's
Why did you choose Snellville? I'm going to stop you right there, and we'll come back to that question. Why did you choose Snellville Police Department? Applied to many different places.
Yep.
Snellville was a raise and pay for you from Richmond County. So go back to that. So you still believe you were improperly terminated. So the details that Investigator Goodyear has just brought to your attention, you being a law enforcement officer and knowing how important the details and the truth is, doesn't give you an indication that maybe you were not improperly terminated? Well, I believe details are important.
You just mentioned something that you applied for several agencies when you applied for Snellville. You said Atlanta and Gwinnett, and Snellville.
Yes, no, it was, I think.
Had one of those other agencies called you first? Would you have taken that? I mean, what happened with the other agencies? Did you fill out an application with them?
Yeah.
And you fill out an application with Atlanta?
Yeah.
And who else?
That was it, I think. I got to check.
Covington?
I think so.
Did you disclose all of this in those applications? The child abuse investigation from 2018?
Oh, no,
The
no, I didn't.
juvenile arrest? Didn't disclose any of that to them? Did you disclose the juvenile arrest to Richmond County when you first went to work for them?
Yeah.
That's in your background packet. We'll find that in your application.
Yeah. I would say they asked me that on my polygraph.
No, I'm not talking about Snellville.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm talking about, Richmond County.
Richmond County
Yeah.
did as well?
Uh-huh.
But you didn't disclose it to these other agencies you were talking about? Why not?
They asked me that question, like I said. I mean,
She asked you a question a few minutes ago that do you see how it appears from the outside
Yeah.
in that
Well,
you're not being forthcoming?
Yeah, I understand.
You understand you probably appeared the same way to Snellville?
Yeah.
if I were a chief making a decision, I honestly wouldn't think that you're giving me 100% of all the information. I can't speak for Snellville, but they felt you weren't forthcoming in your application, which is why they terminated you. Agree or disagree with that if you want to, but that's what we're here to look at as to whether, once you were terminated, as to why. The why you were terminated, they felt you weren't forthcoming. It's up to the council as to whether they're going to deem whether or not you appeared to be forthcoming. If I were the decision maker, I don't feel you're being forthcoming. She doesn't feel you're being forthcoming, so it's reasonable to assume other people may feel the same way. I can't speak for them. The other issue at hand now, as a part of this investigation, the issue with your juvenile arrest has come up. You know as well as I do, any law enforcement officer who holds a certification in this state has got to disclose all arrests, everything. So we're going to have the arresting report, the investigative report, and the court disposition on that juvenile before we can move forward. The council will have to review that. And don't be surprised, if you were charged with a felony at that time, you may get a suspension notice from us. Because anytime we're notified that any officer has ever been under a felony arrest or felony charge, we have to immediately suspend your certification until we clear that up.
Yes, sir.
And once it's cleared up, your certification will be reinstated. So don't be surprised if you get that. And since you're listed as his counsel, you'll probably get that as well. And it's called an emergency suspension notice. So don't be surprised. Don't panic. If you were actually convicted, and in your case you said you pled nolo, that is a conviction, and it was to a felony charge, that could possibly impair your certification, because it's against the law in Georgia for you to hold a peace officer certification if you've ever been convicted of a felony. So don't be surprised if that comes up as well. So how soon do you think you can reach out and get this juvenile?
I'll work on
case?
that this afternoon.
It's going to be harder for me to get it because you were a juvenile at the time. You know how that is. It's hard to get juvenile records. But you giving your consent through him would make it a lot quicker than me trying to get that. I can get it. It's going to take me months to get it.
Yeah,
probably.
hopefully in the next 24, 48 hours.
How old were you at the time? How old are you now?
And you can choose to answer this or not answer this. Was there an inappropriate relationship between you and your cousin when you were 15? No? Well, why? How did that come up?
At my sister's house. I said that I didn't touch her.
How old was she at the time? Math, that was 15 years ago then, if you're 30.
Yeah.
So she'd have been 5?
I think so.
But that's what happened.
Yeah. I was
When he asked you earlier, you didn't remember. Because
No, I
you
don't.
relied on your parents or your sister or somebody else that was in the house to tell you that somebody came and talked to you about something about an inappropriate touch.
But in fairness,
But,
investigators
excuse
are-
me.
Okay, I'm sorry.
But you didn't remember any of that, but you remember that now. This is what I'm trying to tell you, and what he just told you is the details matter.
He didn't
And
ask
you
me.
are not coming forth with the details.
He didn't ask me details.
Yeah, he did.
So let me just interject for a second, because details matter. What Investigator Goodyear asked about was the investigation, not about what happened in the home, not about the incident. He asked about the investigation. So now we're going to confuse this and say you don't remember this. I have 30-year-old clients that can't tell me clearly whether they pled nolo, what court they were in, or what charges there were. We're talking about a 14 or 15-year-old. You asked him about specifically the criminal portion of it. You're asking him about the incident portion, and then you're trying to blur that and say that he did not remember the criminal portion of it.
I'm not trying to blur it. I'm
Okay,
going
I
back
just
to
want to
what
be
he
clear about
answered to
this,
his
'cause
question.
this is angering me
Whoa,
to
whoa,
hear.
whoa, settle down.
No, hold on a minute.
No.
I allowed you to finish.
Yeah,
So,
but I'm not going to be yelled at. Settle down.
Nobody is yelling at you. I'm yelling about a
Calm down.
situation.
There you
okay?
go.
All right, I'll calm down.
Okay.
But here's the problem. You asked him about the criminal portion. He claimed not to remember a lot of it. His mother was involved. His father was involved. His sister, I believe. You asked him about the incident in the home involving the child who was the purported victim. And then you said, you just told Investigator Goodyear that you didn't remember any of that. That's not what was asked. That's all I have to say.
Okay.
This is your time. Is there anything else you want to give us? And don't get caught up. This is another one of those. Is there anything significant? Is there anything significant that you need to add, you want us to know, you want the council to know on your behalf?
No, sir.
You'll get me that juvenile arrest situation. We'll wrap this up. Once we get it turned in and turn it into the council, it takes a while. The council members don't work for post, so they come to our office 4 days a year. They're due again, they're actually coming day after tomorrow, Wednesday. They won't be back again until March. That calendar, I believe, is already full. So if I turn this case in today, it wouldn't go to the March calendar. June and September next year are the next 2 times they come to our office. It would probably be one of those. The sooner you get this information to me so that I can close this investigation, the sooner it gets in line. So it'll either be June, September, or December next year before they get a chance to review it and make a decision. So don't expect an answer overnight. These wheels turn very slowly. Is there any other questions you've got of me while you're here?
No, I'm good. Appreciate it.
Mr. Almaroth, anything?
No, we'll work, this court, I have no idea.
That's why I'm saying it would take me forever to get that information. I'm hoping you would have a better opportunity, better chance of getting that than me.
Okay.
At least a quicker time.
Yeah, we may have to do it in by this afternoon on my way back.
On a personal note, again, you don't have to answer this question. You doing okay?
I'm good.
You said you were having some issues, had to go to a facility. Everything okay with
That was
that?
in March. I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good every day.
Good deal. You still want to stay in this business?
I do.
Got any job offers or anybody that's potential?
Yeah, too.
Where at?
Life and
Okay. All right. Anything else in Investigator Sparks? Nothing. Amaroff, anything else? I'll
No,
wrap
I
this
mean, the
up.
only thing I would add in this guidelines perspective of say this, but, much as an attorney, I try to prepare a client. Difficult sometimes. For a lot, we had a lot going on, and it does believe he was wrongfully treated as his representative, and I'm trying to false article that was why he was an original employee as somebody who's got background. We'd rather have somebody with nothing rather than hold someone beyond the provision. Believes that he was full about everything that he question that wasn't asked today. That was, if you had it to do over again, would you have possibly done it different? You've been through this. 30 years old. Yes, we can say he's a veteran law enforcement officer, but the bottom line is, if he had it to do over, would he do it differently? Well, he would. There were things that he probably would have mentioned, but he didn't think that those were relevant because they'd been discussed, he'd been cleared. He did indicate in his active employer could contact. Question about whether or not his daughter, moved from the house or anything else. The way to have asked that is, was there any point in time during that investigation when you were separated as a custodial parent of your child? Wasn't. So, at any rate, he's been truthful with me as far as I can tell. Trying to be truthful with you all, but this is not in law enforcement. He feels like he was removed from really if he had it to do over again.
On that note, he asked the question. He provided a speculative answer on your behalf. What is your answer to his question?
about what?
Had to do it all over again, would you do it differently? What would you do differently?
Those questions that you asked,
Probably I couldn't hear you with your mask.
I'll probably think detailed answer down. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
All right. Well, I will wrap up this interview. The time is 3:17 p.m.